So I said there's 3 ways to initialize an array. Here's the third one. I'll make an array. This time I'll make it an integer array. This could be letter J. And I'll make it a new int array. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to specify the length ahead of time. So I'm going to say that this is length 4. Now once I do that, I've created an array of length 4. It's actually initialized the array also. And what it did was it automatically initialized every value to the default integer value, which we've seen before is 0. So right now this array is filled with zeros. Then I could go through and start changing the values. And I would do that by referencing which index I want. So if I want to say that, for example, in index 0, I want the number 100, I would write j bracket 0 is 100. That's going to put 100 into that index. Okay? Then I could go to another index. I could go to index 1. And I could put 17 there if I wanted. Okay? And so on and so on. And what I'll do is I'm going to leave index 3 blank to show you guys that it actually is a 0. So right now if I hit compile, okay, I would have those values in there. If I wanted to access any of those values, what I could do is I could print any specific value. So for example, if I said print j bracket 1, that should display 17 because that's the value I put there. So anytime you want to know what value is in an array, you just put a bracket there and say which index you're talking about. Well, what if you don't put that bracket there? Like, what if you just say out.println j? What's that going to do? Let's find out. Let's see what this thing's doing right now. Okay, so like we mentioned, there's the 17 we talked about. That 6 is still the length. Now, notice what happened when I printed j. We've seen this before, right? Like when we learned about objects. So that bracket is the computer's way of telling me that this is an array. The I is the computer's way of telling me that it's an array of integers. Like if this is an array of doubles, I'd see the letter D there. If there's booleans, I'd see B. Okay? Now, this is some weird hexadecimal memory address that I don't really understand. But what it is, again, is it's displaying that object's memory address. You guys probably got different letters than I did, different numbers. So this is just that weird memory address showing up. What if I really wanted to print the array? I could write a loop to go through and print the different values. I could just make several different print statements. There is a way to just print the array. Now, it's not this easy. You can't just say print the array because you get that weird memory address. What you have to do is you have to get the toString method of the arrays class. This is a little tricky. We actually have to write the word arrays. This is a static method found within the arrays class, so we access it through the name like we do with math methods, toString, and then we say which array we're talking about. So if I wanted array J, I would put that in as my method's parameter right here. Now, this method requires an import. So right now, if I compile, it says cannot find symbol variable arrays. Okay? We've seen that before, like with scanners. So I actually need the same import as scanners. I could do import java.util. I could either put a .star there like I did with scanners, or if you wanted, you could put arrays, plural, or .star. And now it compiles without error. And if I run this, it should print the contents of the array for me. And I want you to notice the last number in the array. Okay, so we got the 100, 17, negative 10, and see that 0 there? Remember, I didn't put that 0 there. I only initialized the values of j at indexes 0, 1, and 2. I never actually specified index 3. but that was that automatic initialization showing up. The array was pre-filled with zeros. Now, if this was an array of doubles, it would have been pre-filled with 0.0. If it was an array of booleans, it'd be pre-filled with the value false, okay? And if it was a string or any type of object, circles, bank accounts, whatever, it would be pre-initialized with null. Now, we haven't really learned what the null pointer is yet, so we're going to learn about that on another day. We'll worry about that in the future. All right, so anyway, that's basic printing an array. Now, there's something you got to be a little careful of. If I go J index 4 and I put a number in there, it lets me compile. Now, that's kind of strange because remember what I was saying earlier. If the length is 4 and this thing is built to hold 4 numbers, then the indexes should be 0, 1, 2, 3. So why is it accepting index 4? Well, it will let you compile because it doesn't check on this end, but it does cause confusion on the run end. So let's see. Okay, right there. Java.lang array index out of bounds exception, right? We've seen that before with strings. If you're not careful with arrays, you're going to go out of bounds. The same thing would have happened to me if I put -1 right there. Again, it lets me compile. Even though it's impossible for an array to have a negative index, it lets you compile, but it shows up on the runtime. So that's a runtime error when you go out of bounds. It's not a compile error, it's a runtime error, and it's what we call that out of bounds exception. You know, on your quiz, I'm going to write OOBE, right? Out of bounds exception if you have some issues with that. And we will have issues because we're going to write loops to access the entire array's contents. And if we're not careful with those loops, we're going to go out of bounds.